Hello, Maddie from Hello Interloper here. Today I am going to teach you guys how to make an OPE, otherwise known as an over-perfect evolution, in Blood Brothers. I get this question all the time. How on earth do you make an over-perfect evolution, and what do you do with your crystals? And I haven't exactly had the time to make a tutorial just because I have all the current events to cover, but since the last Blood Brothers event actually ended yesterday, I do have time to make a tutorial today. So, before this starts, I just need you guys to know that you need to have some common knowledge of how evolution works. For this to make sense. If you do need a deeper tutorial, there is an evolution tutorial and a glossary on the Blood Brothers wiki at bloodbrothersgame.wikia.com. So if you need a little more in-depth, I would check that out, or if you're a newbie and don't really know the basics of the game, it's probably a good thing to check out. Now, before I begin, let's talk about what a perfect evolution is. A perfect evolution requires 8 of the same familiar if you have a rare that evolves into an epic. Now, of course, there are many other things that you could do. Let's say that you have a epic evolution, you got 1 and 1, and you can only go up to a 2-star. Like, let's say, I believe Iron Golem. I actually had a question about Iron Golem, so this is quite relevant. So, if you have an Iron Golem, a perfect evolution would be a maximum level 1 and 1 put together. Now, that's what a perfect evolution is. All of them have to be max level when you put them together. And so they have to max level when they're rare, and max level when they're epic, or in the case of Iron Golem, both of the epics have to be max level. So, the basic is with all max level. That's how you make a perfect evolution, because you'll have the maximum stats because all of the evolutions are maximum level when they're fused together. Now, what is an above perfect evolution, or over perfect evolution, OPE? That is when you add crystals into the equation. So for this, I'm going to kind of just use the basic 8 familiars, 8 rare familiars that will be fused into a singular 4-star epic, just to make things a little bit easy. So there is a little picture here, and you kind of can just ignore the numbers here. But basically what you need to know is you'll have 8 to start out with. Now, if I wanted to make a perfect evolution, perfect over perfect evolution, which is called POPE, you have to use crystals on every single one. Now, not everybody has 400 crystals lying around, but in order for this to work, let's look at this here. Sorry, this is a little more complicated than I thought it would be. But let's say you have 8 land balls. So if you add 50 crystals to each, and then evolve these 2 together into one. Basically, one of them is the seed, and the other one is the base. So, the base will carry over, and that's what was fused into it. So, technically, this already has all the crystals in it. So does this one, this one, this one, if you fuse these 2 together, these 2 together, these 2 together, these 2 together. So, at this point, you would have 4 2-stars. Now, you would take these 4 2-stars, fuse them together, and then you'd have 2 epics. Now, at this point, you'd have to level it back up, because as soon as it turns into an epic, the level cap actually goes up. So you'd have to level these 2. And these 2 already have all the crystals inside of it, you don't have to worry about it. And then once these are both leveled up, you fuse them together for the maximum perfect evolution. So at the end, now this is when the numbers come into play, it has plus 665.5 stats. And that was by adding 500 stats, which is 50 crystals, to each of them. But when they were raw 1-stars. A little bit confusing. So we're going to go for something perhaps a little bit easier. Let's look at that Iron Golem again. Now, unfortunately, I don't have an Iron Golem here but actually they have Fafnir, so you can kind of figure out here how this works. Now, this diagram shows that you would do 500 stats on the final one. Now, if you wanted it to be a perfect over perfect evolution, what you do is you'd use the crystals on these two. And then, when you fuse it together, because the base had crystals, you don't have to use crystals again. Now, if you did not use crystals on the first 1 stars, then you can add it to the second one, and it would not be perfect. But it would be better than usual. So, it's a little confusing, I know, and I'm not sure if I'm explaining it the best. But basically, when you are fusing these together, there are different levels here. Now, if you do a perfect, or, a POPE, which is perfect over perfect evolution, you do have 665.5 extra stats because of the crystals. But if you do 50 less crystals, you get 665. You don't have that 0.5, so it's really not worth it. And then if you use 300 crystals, it's really a difference of 5 stats. So basically, then 5 less, 5 less, we got 50 less when we go down to 150. 100 is 550, so this is when it starts actually making a huge difference. But basically adding crystals to the end always gives you the highest yield, because if you use just 50 crystals, you have it plus 500 to all stats, which is awesome. Or plus 500 in total, sorry. Then if you do these two final ones and fuse them together, like the 3-star epic, that'll do 550 at the end. Or you could do any combination here. The color around the outside is the ones that crystals have been added to. But to basically make a perfect evolution, you wouldn't add crystals to any of them, except for if you want to do the end, it'd still be over perfect evolution. Perfect evolution just means that every step was fully leveled when fused, and you do need 8 to begin with. If you did not have 8 to begin with a rare that evolves into a 4-star epic, it's not perfect evolution. So, sorry if that was maybe a little less clear than I intended. It is a rather complicated process, but there is a table here on this site. This is maybe if you did not understand what I was saying, it would be easier to actually go to the tutorial itself. All you have to do is go to the Blood Brothers wiki. You go to wiki navigation, open up tutorial, and there's an OPE guide, which will help you a little more step by step. So, if none of this was clear, there is an alternative, thankfully. But basically, what a POPE or POPE is 100% of all the possible stats you can get on this one guy. And if you don't add any crystals, it's only 94.82% of what its maximum could be. But generally, even just adding crystals to the last evolution automatically has a jump of about 4% in terms of stats. So, using your crystals is good. It's definitely a good thing. But what you can't do, and this is one more thing that's kind of clear, if you fused 2 guys with crystals, you can't add crystals to that evolution. Because what it really is you're fusing this to that. And since this one already had crystals to begin with, this one will have crystals, technically. So it carries over, per se. Now, if you put crystals on one of the guys, and you fused a non-crystal, well, let's say you fused non-crystal with crystal, the evolution would be non-crystal, and then you could add crystal with it. It's really complicated. It's best if you're going to do some crazy crystal additions that you have put 2 crystal guys together, so just in case you accidentally fuse this guy to this guy, well, this guy to this guy, you'll be able to add crystals to the last one. It's complicated. It would be a lot easier if they made this a little more clear, and especially it would be a lot nicer if they did add some kind of crystal information to the bazaar, because then you could know when you have a perfect evolution above perfect evolution, perfect above perfect evolution right off the bat when you're buying. But anyway, hope this helped somewhat. I'm really sorry if I'm not that great at explaining this. It is rather complicated, and it's a crazy process. But basically put, if you want to get the most bang for your buck, just add it to the end. It's a 4% jump in stats, and that's great. So anyway, take care, everybody. Hope this helped at least a little.